Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. I am your host, Gilbert McLean, sitting in for Mr. Orit Connor, who is on leave. And with me in the studio is Dr. Steve McField, well-known attorney at law, co-host of the show, and also MLA for East End, Mr. Arden McLean. I'm sure that we're going to have an interesting discussion today, and Mr. McLean in particular is here to speak to some of the issues which his group, the opposition group, has actually presented to the government and has asked for their consideration of these things being funded in the upcoming budget. We don't know how that's going, but certainly Mr. McLean is going to outline some of the areas that have been put forward by the opposition to the government. And on Monday, when we were here, we were looking at some of the situations which do exist in Cayman that was making front page news. But before we get to a very quick review of that, I would like to say good morning and welcome to Mr. McField and Mr. McLean. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you, Mr. McLean, and sitting in for Mr. Orit Connor for Mr. For the Record, and good morning to you listeners locally and those are listening to you by streaming abroad, and good morning to Mr. McLean, the other Mr. McLean, the MLA for the electoral district of East End. Yes, we were looking at some headlines last week, and I would like, if we have chance today, to look at some more headlines. One headline that grabs me is the fact that the Speaker of the House has now been exonerated or has not been charged with any offense in Florida.
Right.
That's very, very important. And perhaps we could have a chance to talk about the role of the Speaker and what that entails and and the difficulty of removing a Speaker in the British parliamentary system of government. And then also this morning I was looking through the one of the Jamaican papers, and I was looking at the Jamaica Observer, and I see there's another story about another Jamaican policeman who left Jamaica sometimes, I think last year or this year, to get a job in Cayman. He was a member of the Jamaica
Defense
Force,
JDF,
and now he's working as a police in Cayman. He was arrested just a couple of days ago when he went back to Jamaica. He was arrested and charged on a warrant that was issued for him, and was granted bail in the sum of $100,000 Jamaican dollars. So here we are again. We always having headlines in local and out in the outer world, as we put it, and we wonder how can these things actually happen to us? And although we on this radio, we're streaming to New York and to Argentina and all over the place where people listen to us, how is it that we can't get it right?
And how can we get some good news about the Cayman Islands?
Exactly.
We want to be known and for all the positive things, and there are many positive things, but it seems that all the time what we are doing or the things that we're hearing about our island has some sort of negative connotation. Something isn't gelling right. That's for sure. Mr. McLean, what's your take on it?
Morning, Gilbert, and morning, Dr. McField.
Good morning.
I don't know. I find it quite amazing that, and good morning to the broader Cayman Islands as well. I find it quite amazing that and I think we were saying that just before we started, that we chat and we talk, but there's very little action in politics. I believe a lot of it has to do, though, with the lack of participation by the masses, really. Like the last time you were here, someone called up about a particular matter that had already been passed into law. But obviously the people didn't listen to the opposition we put up against that. Like the National Conservation Law and all those laws. And no, we don't. I don't go down to the Legislative Assembly looking to oppose. I go down there looking to support things that are Caymanian, that will benefit Caymanians. But if it's not good, then I oppose it. That is in my respectful view, and when I talk to people in my constituency and island-wide, and people have concerns about certain things. And it may not necessarily be the particular law, but when that is being amended or being created, introduced, but as you go about your way, you understand what people's concerns are. That's how politics works. I am eternally grateful for this radio station, and this, in particular, this talk show, because it gets some very good messages out. With experienced people like yourselves and OC, who has been there quite a while. I believe that it serves a worthwhile purpose. I don't know so much about others, but this radio show serves a very worthwhile purpose, and more people are tuning into it and getting a lesson in governance and democracy, which is very, very, very good. It all goes well for the future of this country. Unfortunately, this wasn't done before.
I think you're right, Mr. McLean. The fact I listened to this show myself, I'm on it right at this time, but when Mr. Connor is here and Dr. McField and Mrs. Pitcairn are here, I listen to it because, like you say, it deals with many things in law, in the Constitution and otherwise that all of us should be aware of, and it's an opportunity to learn. So it is playing a major role, and there's one thing with that is factual about Radio Cayman as well. It's variety programming. The programming on Radio Cayman covers all spectrums, and of course when it comes down to the news, across the board in Cayman, when we hear the news from Radio Cayman, it's taken that is the official word. Not to say the others don't also give news which is given to them or which they discover, but Radio Cayman is that point where the country, it was on Radio Cayman, therefore it is the official word.
I mean, one of the things, when you have to go out and beg, it takes a while. I've been working on a little building on the field up in East End for quite some time now, by donations, and you keep asking for donations. And upstairs of that is an open building. It's almost finished. Just air conditioning needs to be put in, some tiles needs to be put in. I'm hoping very soon. And one of the goals I have for that is at least once every 3 months or so, have a session with people on things like the Constitution and go through it, and see what people understand about it and explain it for them, especially their rights as human beings in this country. And whilst I'm no lawyer, I'm a lawmaker, and I understand it nevertheless. May not be to the train level that these guys have who look for loopholes. We make the law, and hopefully there's no loopholes in it. But when they are, that's what you call amendments. Nothing is etched in stone. You can only make laws based on the information you have available to you at that time.
Well, Mr. McLean, that I think is a very important point where the legislature is concerned. The legislature or parliament may make laws, amend laws, or rescind laws.
That's right.
And surely, in my opinion, they need to rescind some that they have made, like the one where we changed the immigration law, that basically anyone who comes to the Cayman Islands, even if they're not coming to work, they can find work while they're here, which is illegal. So there's a need to enforce the law, but also this idea that everyone who comes to the Cayman Islands, you can stay. That needs to be amended or rescinded, in my opinion. Mr. McField, I've heard you speak to that before.
Well, I just don't understand, Mr. McLean. Why is it I have been calling about this for months and months and months? Why is it that we do not respect and implement our Constitution? Our Constitution gives us the right to say what jobs can be for Caymanians only. It doesn't take any motion by any legislative member to go down there to designate what job. The Constitution says in Section 16, which protects us of the Bill of Rights, that we have the right to say, especially in the public service, in the public sector, police, immigration, customs, prison, fire service, any jobs that are in the public service, public corporations, public companies, Cayman Airways, the airport authority, airport. We have the right to say that only those jobs can be held by Caymanians. We have the right to do so under the Constitution, gives us the right to do so, gives the government, the members of the Legislative Assembly, the right to go down and pass a law to do that. Why is it that we're not doing that? I just can't understand. Why is it that we're not doing this? And we have the right, and it says, and I'll read it again, to control the entry, exclusion from, or the employment, engagement in any business or profession, movement or residence within the Cayman Islands of persons who are not Caymanians. Why is it that people do not want to protect themselves? I have never heard that yet. I've heard every household. I know when I was growing up, my family protect our household from other encroachment on other people, and I know that every other country does that. Every other country has Coast Guard, has Army, has everything to protect themselves. Why is it that Caymanians feel that they have to be bastards out into the world, and that everybody can come in and bow down and take a whip to them, and we laugh, and all we do is talk about it, shoo about it? Why is it that we can't stand up? We not stand up people. Surely when I was a young man, and Mr. McLean was a young man out in the world, we went with national bug carriers. We were men, and we stood up to other people. And in fact, it was told to us that the best of the other people only equate to the worst of us. And so I can't understand in our own home, where we control our own home, that we cannot lock our own doors. I just can't understand that. What kind of people are we?
Well, Mr. McField, we will look at that in greater detail when we take this break and come back. I understand that we got a full bank of calls already, and if those callers would just hold, as soon as we come back, we will take those calls. You're listening to For the Record. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Record. I am your host, Gilbert McLean, filling in for Mr. Oric Connor. And with me in the studio is Dr. Steve McPhail, well-known attorney, co-host of the show, and also Mr. Arden McLean, member of the Legislative Assembly for East 10. And I understand, have two calls now lined up, and we promised that we would go to them when we got back. Two have dropped up, but if those folks will call us back, they will certainly get their opportunity to share with us what their view is on the matters we've been talking about. And it seems like everybody agrees that there's law and there's things that needs to be done, but then the question is who is taking the action. But let's take the two calls. Good morning, caller. Please go ahead. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello, morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, I would like to
Morning.
make it say that I really appreciate this show.
Thank you, sir.
Steve Backfield, I've really been, you're saying the right things,
Thank you.
I would just like to say this. I think we need more police, more Caymanians in the police force. That's one of our biggest problems right now when it comes to policing. You know what I mean? I've had a lot of friends that I went to school with that tried for the force, and they were pretty intelligent people, and they still didn't get in for some reason I don't understand.
Well,
they could do something like a pre-enlisting program to get them prepared, If they do something like that, it could probably, enable more Caymanians to get in,
Well, thank you very much, caller. I think that the persons here in the studio would agree that we need more Caymanian policemen, and what is the best method of recruiting them is, that's yet to find its place, I dare say.
Caller.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Many years, I think it was 2002, when I ran for election in 2000, didn't get elected, and then Roy Borden became a minister in 2002. And the platform that I ran on with a guy called Robert Borden was to have a cadet corps system in the Cayman Islands, training young men and women for all the uniform branches of the government.
Yeah.
Not to be a mini army running around with rifles, training them so that when they graduated from the cadets corps, they could go into the customs, they could go into immigration, they could go into police services, and we had it all set up, and that was all destroyed because people saw that as too advanced at the time. And today it is not serving the purpose it's supposed to be served, because when they finished the cadet service at 8 o'clock, and how was going to work, we had it arranged at the time where so many cadets would go to the Georgetown police station after the school hours, so many at the Bordentown police station, so many at the Westwood police station. They would go out with the policemen. They went to investigate road accidents. They would keep their own diary to see how the police do it, and by the time that they're 18, they would be eligible to become cadets in the police force. And so there would be a continuous service of people going to the services in immigration, customs, and all of those things, and you would not have to bring people from abroad. You would have more people than you needed.
Yes, sir.
But you see, we don't think that way. We only reactionary people. We only react when something happened to us, and then we react, but we don't proact and prepare ourselves for the future. And that's because we don't like each other. We don't even love our own children.
Yes, sir.
That's the problem that we have in this country.
Well, thank you very much, caller, for taking the time and sharing your view with us. I know, Mr. McLean, you wanted to make a comment as well, and I saw you making some notes, but we got another caller, so if we can take the caller when we come back, Mr. McLean, you can comment, please. Good morning, caller. Please go ahead. You're on the air with For the Record.
Good morning, Honorable McLean, Dr. Steve, and Honorable Another McLean.
Good morning. Good morning.
And to the listening public. Just agree. I just listened to the last statement Dr. Steve made and agree with what he was saying then. And if they had kept that going, we wouldn't be in the problem we got now. But that's our problem. If we got something going good that can help us Caymanians and the country as a whole, they got to scrap it to bring in other people. I talking about the police now. We definitely need more Cayman police. I know, for instance, with a young Caymanian, I got a little problem with a smoker ganja, and he applied for a job. He wanted to turn his life around. He applied for a job, but he could not get it. But then we, in turn, can bring murderers from other jurisdictions serve our police force. So we got to do better. We got to do better than that. I don't know exactly the answer to it. We already scrapped the answer to it with Dr. Steve had there, but we got to start again. And the immigration, we got to put that back on the foot in there. Dr. Steve explained everything about that. And we got to uphold the highest law in the land, our Constitution. We can find money for other things. We can find money for district councils and everything, but they do not want district councils because the district council would advise them what's the best for their country. And they don't want that. They want to set it up that they would advise the district council what to say. So I got to praise you all for this show, Radio Cayman, for hosting this. And I think so. You keep up the good in Honorable Ard McLean. You is in good position now to get things, Put
Thank
them
you.
on your toes. And I know you got Cayman at heart, and you do the right thing.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ivan.
very much, Mr. Farrington.
This
And
is-
again, Mr. McLean, would you just let us? We need to go to a break here at the news, and when you come back, the floor is yours.
Hey, let's not get in trouble like how we got in trouble with Miss Georgette the other morning.
Right,
Let's
right.
not do
Yeah,
that
to the
again,
point. Yes,
especially with her.
exactly. You're listening to For the Record. We'll be back after the news. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to For the Record, broadcasting at 89.9 in Grand Cayman and 93.9 in Cayman Bracket, Little Cayman here on Radio Cayman. And when we took the break for the news, Mr. McLean, you were promised that your turn would come, and your turn is now. So speak to what we've been discussing about the police and otherwise. I saw you making some notes.
Yeah, Gilbert. Let me just briefly speak on what Dr. Macfield spoke about, which was the creation of the Cadet Corps and what its the intentions were. We don't recognize those things. We don't even fund the little Cadet Corps that we currently have properly. And, there was a phrase thrown around here a few years ago, nation building.
Yes.
Now, define how that was thrown around in your own way, whatever you want, whether it was abuse of process or whatever the case may be. But it's a good thing to have. And I believe that Cadet Corps is nation building. That's part of nation building. And it needs to be properly funded. One of the things that we are all beneficiaries of is Boy Scouts. And I believe the Cadet Corps plays an equal role to Boy Scouts. And OC is very well involved in that. And I have, every finance committee I ask about the Cadet Corps for years. That was created by Roy, really, Roy Budden.
Yes.
And I ask about them, and when are we going to give them government land so they can have their own place? The cadets can fix it up themselves,
Of course.
but give them ownership, in order that they can build their barracks and what have you and whatnot, and their training ground and what have you, and I am sure the private sector will step up and make contributions there too. But we don't want that. We want to have build up our reserves so that the electors our constituents can see that we got money, and at the same time lose sight of building this nation and preparing it for the future. On the matter of the devil when he called in about records and stuff, years ago, Mr. Miller and I brought a motion to the Legislative Assembly about trying to assist Caymanians with minor charges that stays on their record. Because at the time it was, if you receive any sentence over 30 months, it would stay on your record forever. And we brought a motion asking for that to be increased to 5 years, because all the minor stuff would be there, like possession of ganja and the likes, and a controlled drug and the likes, because most people would get 36 months. And that put them right in that bracket that it would never come off their record. Nobody acted upon it, and then they brought the law, which the title escapes me now, but to expunge records. And we argued for the 5 years again, argued strongly for the 5 years. And they put it to 36 months. And just before the legislature was dissolved, they brought it back to put it to 5 years. I don't know. I guess the ideas need to come from those of us who have control. And that's unfortunate, because you need to be on the ground to understand what people are going through. And I think we almost in an amendment there decriminalize the use of ganja as well. But we need, now you can make an application to have your records expunged, and hopefully that will work a little better than it has been doing for a lot of Caymanians. On the matter of police, most may not know, but that all those boats and helicopter that the country has is an idea coming from me in cabinet. This was 2005, 2009. And the intent of that was the same as Mr. Macfield talked about with similar, not exactly, with the Cadet Corps. What I wanted to see was voluntary, people volunteering to join this mini Coast Guard, so to speak. But of course, we got shot down with that because of insurance liability. But people would have the knowledge that if they went out there and joined the police force on a voluntary basis, that there were certain liabilities that they had to shoulder as well.
Of course, and it would be protecting our island on the sea.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, what we submitted to the cabinet recently for the SPS, if I may just read what our concerns are with security.
Mr. McLean, you definitely have the opportunity of doing that. But we got two callers online. Let's take those two callers, and then we go straight to your presentation there. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Please go ahead.
Good morning, panel.
Good morning.
I I do agree with the caller that called in a few minutes ago regarding the police. They need more Caymanians. First of all, they need more or less like customer service training. They have no manners. The police, the majority of them today, have no manners. They don't know how to approach people. I've seen one couple weeks ago just came to respond of a loud music. And instead of introducing herself and saying good evening, we got a report the music is too loud, so please cut it down. Cut it off. Cut it off. Who the owner of the car? Cut it off and cut it off now. Reach into the man's car to cut off his car, and he grabbed and said, hell, you don't go inside of my car. What they'll come of it? To charge the man for assault, which is dead wrong. You don't approach people that kind of way. Of course, you're going to get that kind of reaction if you approach people that kind of way. The problem is that our government is not standing up and putting things in place for our Caymanians, period. That was a good idea with the cadet thing. What happened to it? They just demolish it. They don't look out for us Caymanians or to try to bring our Caymanians up and to put us in places or see that we get the opportunity that we should get. You understand? I mean, a lot of these places is just they're just hiring foreigners, not even getting to check their background or anything about them. But here we are with Caymanians. They know us from growing up. They know us what we're all about. And instead of leading the young generation into the right direction by training them with the cadet schools that they can go into any government position, no, they don't see it. They don't have time for that. They don't have time. Which is a crying shame. You understand? It's also like, look at how many of our young Caymanians, our Caymanian families, have got fed up with the way that things have been run in Cayman, the cost of living, the lack of jobs, the discriminations in the workplace and all of that, and move out to England to live. I mean, that's a crying shame. We have to run from our own little island that people call paradise. But when they get here, they realize and understand what's going on. It is paradise in one way, but it's terror in the other. And I mean, that's a crying shame. I mean, they need to step up to the plate. We've seen so many, or we put in so many other people to try to break up this party system to see if we can get Cayman back on track and go in the right direction. But up to this minute, you still can't see no improvement or no changes. You understand?
Caller, I think you're right on with what you were saying, and I thank you for the fact that you took the time to call in and share your thoughts with us. I have another caller online. Is there anything else you would like to say quickly before? Anyway, we the call dropped. Let's take the other call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. How's everybody today?
Morning.
Good
Doing
morning.
well, thanks.
Yeah, talking about the police force. It's plain and simple. I know Caymanians that have applied 3 times, and they refuse them. They say, well, they lack in this, they wasn't good on this, they wasn't good on that. I wasn't good at it neither, but I was a Caymanian, and they took me in and they trained me in the part that I was lacking. Why can't they do it here the same way? Simple, they do not want Caymanian. I have known a Caymanian boy applied 3 times, and every time they're saying, well, his writing skills isn't that good, his talking skills isn't that good. Take him and train him. But I know people that coming from other parts of the world, they take them in just like nothing. Once you're a foreigner, you can get anything you want in Cayman. It's a shame what's going on here. People just coming in here in Cayman with a work permit done in their hands when they reach the airport. Jobs were never advertised. And they come. All of this not right. I don't know where it lies between the immigration and the NDW, whatever it means, the work department there. I don't know. I don't have any education, but I know between the immigration and that company, the work development force or whatever they name, they should coordinate with each other to see which Caymanian needing a job. It's very bad what's going on here. I know people that come here on a 6-month work permit and they got their own business going. How is that possible?
Well,
How could you answer
that question and see what can be done, especially about the police force. Caymanians want to apply, but they do not want no Caymanians that know the island, that know the people. They want to bring foreigners in, and I agree with that caller. Some of the police, have very bad attitude, very bad approach because they got on a uniform.
Well, thank you very much, caller. And I know Mr. McLean wants to speak to that. This security and policing is one of the areas that he and his colleagues have presented to the government. So it'll be left to see what they have come up with, including how they recruit. But Mr. McField spoke of the situation with a police officer, and I've actually gone online to the Observer, the Jamaica Observer, and the story is captioned, ex-cop accused of holding woman by throat for court today. And it says a former member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force who was arrested on arrival on the island Thursday and was subsequently offered $100,000 bail is to reappear in Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court today, along with a woman constable, on allegations that they had assaulted two women they had arrested. And the story goes on to where it comes to the point. The officer there is one, or the person's name is O'Dane Simpson, was last Friday bailed when he appeared in the court following the application by his lawyer, Linda Wright, on an assault charge. And it ends up saying that according to Wright, her client, who resigned from the Jamaica Constabulary Force last December and now resides in the Cayman Islands, where he has been working as a police officer, came to the island to visit his newborn child. Consequently, the attorney asked the judge not to enforce a stop order to prevent her client from leaving the jurisdiction, as he needed to return to work. The judge, as a result, offered Simpson bail without any conditions. When people are being prosecuted, these matters, for some reasons, take forever, so no conditions, as he has to survive, the Judge Wolf Reese said. So there is a situation that exists right now in our island, and it kind of follows on this whole matter of security, of police, how we recruit persons to be policemen. And Mr. McLean will speak to this just as soon as we take this break. We also have 3 callers lined up. If those callers would please hold, we will come back and give them an opportunity to be heard. Stay tuned. You're listening For the Record. Welcome back to For the Record. We have 2 callers. Let's see if we can quickly take those 2 calls, and then Mr. McLean will start to comment on the position that he and his colleagues have taken with security and policing. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Gilbert.
Good morning.
Good morning to MLA Arden McLean.
Good morning.
Good morning to Dr. Steve Maxey.
Good morning, Miss
This
Ma'am.
is Georgette.
Good morning, Miss Georgia.
Good morning.
Thank you. And I have just a few words to say. I trust that all 3 of you can say that your family members are all well.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
well with my family so far, and I am very grateful God gave me another day. And now I'll make my statement and I'll hang up, because this show is just wonderful. I learned so much. I am so happy and proud to say that all 3 of you are dear friends of mine. I have known all 3 of you for many, many years, and I respect you, and I am so proud and happy of the way that you present yourselves on the radio show. Just keep it up, and God bless all 3 of you and every member of your family. And I also wish God's blessing on all the people on our 3 islands, and especially His blessing on those people who are outdoors, who are homeless. thank you for giving me this time. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Georgette.
Georgette.
Thank you for that, for those blessings, and may you continue to have a real fruitful life, and you're only getting older. You're not old, as you say. You're only getting older, and we really appreciate your philosophy, and we really appreciate all the calls you make, because you are one of the people who are special to us, because you are one of the forerunners of the reason why many people have their rights today in this country.
And the development of a democracy.
Yes.
And Miss Georgette, thank you very much, and I wish for you a rewarding life, and a long life. I speak of some older folks in East End, all like my Uncle Frank. I keep telling Uncle Frank, I cannot say what your ailments are from your shoulders down, but I know there's nothing wrong from your shoulders up.
Let us take the next call. Good morning, caller. You're on For the Record.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, I just called in here regarding the Cadet Corps. This has been going on for years now, and I really don't understand how that there or the children within the schools, it should be a problem, or it's a problem for them to find sufficient or enough children to join this Cadet Corps. But I know years ago, several parents had applied or wanted to put their children in, but because of the children doesn't have a certain upgrade or standard of grades or whatever, they got to be up to top students or A students, and for them to be really accepted into this Cadet Corps. So a lot of these children has fallen behind, which they were smart, but because they were creative and special needs, they couldn't get into this Cadet Corps. So apparently these children fall behind in the court system, and on, like, they call them behavioral problems or just bad children. But because the teachers in the school, they don't have special education teachers, the teachers are not creative enough. And I know being in the salt water and out there in the boat or whatever, swimming, diving, is very therapeutic for these type of children. So I'm wondering if it's still going that way, that these children, this should be mandatory, that these children to join Cadet Corps at least when they're like from primary school, like 9 and 8 years old, because this is when they start to become, very, I would say, like, on still in the school. So, and if you're being from primary school, and as children are being told that you're bad and you're rude and so forth, it's not going to help the situation. That's why we are losing so much children. It's not just today, but it's been going on for years, and a lot of our young Caymanians are in Northwood prison. So, and what happened, it doesn't get the attention. They don't have anyone at home when they leave in the morning for school. When they come home from school in the evening, there's nobody there. So these children get lost in the system. So I'm wondering what is being addressed in this situation.
Well, thank you for that call, caller.
Ma'am, let me tell you, ma'am, the Cadet Corps had the Cadet Corps had many functions. It has a function to prepare people to go into the uniformed branches of government, and it also had the function as a disciplinary force. And we envisaged when we started it that it would be a place where the judges could have a place to send people for alternative sentencing. That if you were a young person and you got in trouble for the first time, the judge
Boot
would
camp, like
say that you you had to go to the Cadet Corps. And also it was supposed to be compulsory. If you went to a government school, a public school in which the government pays, it was compulsory that you had to join the Cadet Corps. So every school would have a cadet contingent. Every school. But you see, the people who they gave it to afterward, they got rid of myself and Kirk Nixon and all of those, took it the other way. It was not meant to be what it be. It was meant to be of the maritime system heritage of Cayman. That's what it was meant to be. It was not meant to be a mini army, and it was meant to be for everybody, not for a selective few. But like Cayman, everything that has any monetary value and a social value, it's only the special people. And let me give an example of that. Dr. Melano McCoy, I know he's probably listening to me where he is today, because I believe he is probably in a good place. He came here and started the national choir, Queen's Choir. That at the time when it started, it was nobody paid attention to it because it was these people singing. But when other people came into the country and saw that it had some high social value, they all joined, and they also all of those people who started the men's choir, and then it became this high social program. This is what happens to Cayman. The cadet corps was supposed to be for every youth, especially those who attend the public schools. We couldn't say the same for people who attend the private school, because they had their own programs, and we could not make it compulsory for their children to join. But every person, every child who went to public school would have what they would have done in the morning when they went to school. They would have broke the flag. They would have sing the national anthem, and they would have discipline and patriotism to their country. But they couldn't have that. They couldn't have that in Cayman. And then when they saw the people who were supposed to be in charge of the cadet corps, they said, "Oh, we don't want those people." But Kirk and Nixon, I was very surprised when they took it away from us and they gave it to some people who know nothing about Cayman culture, who know nothing about what we want to do, and who are not interested in developing our young people to be men. I had a chance when I was young. I didn't go to the cadet corps, but I went to something worse than the cadet corps, and that was called National Ball Carriers.
Well, I know Mr. McLean have had that too. Let's take this call, and then we have to go to a quick break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Enjoying your topics and your comments this morning.
Good morning.
I mean, we need to realize that as Caymanians, we have come a long way, but we have a long way to get back to being Caymanian. In that, I'm saying is we need to really think about, what is important to us, and it starts with our children. And we need to really build them and lift them up if we want them to be productive citizens in our communities and in our future. That's one comment. And the next thing I would like to remind civil servants that are CISCA members that today we have the last day for the school bags distribution at our office, and that is from 5 till 8 this evening. So CISCA members, if you have not collected your bags yet, today is the last day, 5 to 8 at the CISCA office upstairs in number 1 shoe shop.
Well, thank you very much, caller, for your call. And we have to go again to a quick commercial break. You're listening to For the Record with Mr. Arden McLean, MLA for East End, and Dr. Steve McPhail, co-host of the show. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Gilbert McLean, sitting in for Mr. Orit Connor. And we do have a caller online, but Mr. McLean is being set back every time. So I'm going to ask that caller if they would please hold, or if need be, call back so that Mr. McLean can actually speak to this very area. Should we take the call?
Yeah, go ahead and then.
Okay. All right then. Caller, you have been given the opportunity by Mr. McLean here, so please go ahead. You're on the air.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Arden. Love you to death. Love you like ice cream. But this morning, I don't like judging people, but I just got to say that we pick until we pick, you know what? And I don't know what's wrong with us that we can't give our own people the benefit of the doubt. We always trust outside people before we trust our own people. And talking about Cayman getting back to where it was, I would love Cayman to go back to some of what we was some years ago, but I can guarantee you it's going to be very hard to do. And if we get back to some, I would love it to death. But I just want to say, we got some officers working at the airport. And let me tell you something. Some of them is a waste of time at that airport. They're afraid of the sun. They're afraid of the rain. They're afraid of walking up and down that airport strip there where people are being parked illegal and so forth and so forth. And they're on their phone constantly. They are not vigilant. They are just up there killing time and skylocking. And I would tell this to anybody in the police department what I have observed walking up there. There's not no picking at no one individually. We got some who come there and they do a very good job. And we got some who don't give a rat to you know what. But I just want to say this morning, we need to focus on our people of this island and stop taking every paper that come in here and say, yes, they're clean. Let's give them a job. We're not digging down deep enough. If I go to America today to get a job, they're going to search me from head to toe. They're going to go and read up everything they can find on me before they can prove a job for me that lived there for 10 years, that been up now 25 years out of America. So I just want to say, Cayman, please wake up. Fight for your country. You don't have to fight with weapons, but stand up for your country. Thank you so much, guys, and have a good day. And Arden, that ice cream is vanilla. Bye.
Thank you, caller, for your call and for your views on things. Mr. McLean, back to you this time now. Definitely.
I want to go back a couple calls when a young lady called in and talk about paradise, this Cayman Islands that we call paradise. And every time I hear it, I liken it to the Eagles. You remember the band Eagles in the 80s and 90s?
Yes.
They have a song called Last Resort, and I would like people to listen to it. Caymanians listen to it. I'll just read a couple of the verses out of it. She came from Providence, the one in Rhode Island, where the old world shadows hang heavy in the air. She packed her hopes and dreams like a refugee, just as her father came across the sea. She heard about a place, people were smiling. They spoke about the red man's way, how they loved the land, and they came from everywhere to the great divide, seeking a place to stand or a place to hide. And then we move on to another one, another part of it. Some rich men came and raped the land. Nobody got them. Put up a bunch of ugly boxes, and Jesus' people bought them. And they call it paradise, the place to be. They watch the hazy sun sinking in the sea. Another paragraph. Who will provide the great design? What is yours and what is mine? Because there is no more new frontier. We have got to make it here. We satisfy our endless needs and justify our bloody deeds in the name of destiny and in the name of God. And you see them there on Sunday morning. They stand up and sing about what it is like up there. They call it paradise. I don't know why. You call someplace paradise, kiss it goodbye. That's the Eagles 20 or 30 years ago. And I liken Cayman to that song. Maybe people need to listen to it and understand it, because they come from where the dark shadows hang low right over them. And they come to find a place to stand or to hide, many of them. So I just want to leave that out there with all of us. Gilbert, I understand the police department, and they're different. I don't want to overly malign the police department. I don't.
You don't want to malign them at all.
At all.
We're not maligning them.
I have always defended the police department. However, there are certain responsibilities that needs to, and accountabilities that we need to hold people to. I brought a motion against the former commissioner of police. I don't have problems with that. That's my job to do as a representative on behalf of the people of East End in particular, and the people of this country in general. And I fear no one in this country. And I will utilize the authority and the power that the people have given me. That's what I will do. Now, we, the opposition, because as you all know, this is the first time an opposition has really had any degree of organization in this country.
Yes, and I think you also should be complimented for doing so, because what you have set up now is the way it's done throughout the larger the world, certainly in the Commonwealth countries where there's an opposition. Then you have a shadow government.
Absolutely.
Where you assign to yourselves the same subjects that the people in the government day-to-day business is doing.
And we have lauded that from this station many times.
And Mr. Miller had started some of this and had left off at point 5 that we have submitted to government on the SPS strategic policy statement, which will be done on the 21st of this month, delivered to the Legislative Assembly, because 3 months after the a general election date. So the 24th of August would be 3 months.
And you would be speaking to point 5, security.
Well, not necessarily me alone, we all, but I'm going to start at 5. And this is one of the areas about police. It's security.
Exactly. And I'm getting a signal saying that we have to go to a 9 o'clock break right now. So, Mr. McLean, at least you got in some of the things you want to say, but we actually need to take a break now. And I asked the person who is on the line just to hold, and we'll be back. But for right now, we need to go to a break. You're listening to For the Record. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to For the Record. And Mr. McLean, you were about to speak to a point of the information which you gave to the government, to the Premier, when you and the rest of your colleagues met with them. So, again, over to you.
I thought you had a call.
I'm not.
Okay.
There is a call? Okay, well, let's take that call then. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Please go ahead. I think they've left, so.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Just let me say, Gilbert, that one of the most important part of the last campaign was security. All of us may not have called it security, but we talk about people's safety and crime and what have you. And I think I was calling it security. I said security, education, health are the 3 most important things in any human being's life. And this is what we put forward to the government. Caymanians are becoming more and more concerned and uneasy about their safety and increasing crime, which we believe needs to be urgently addressed, and make the following recommendation. A, the police be given the resources and tools they determine are necessary to properly and effectively enforce the law through the detection and solving of crimes. B, there needs to be put in place adequate methodologies and resources to monitor the effectiveness of the police service. C, there needs to be specific and deliberate resources and methods put in place to protect our borders and improve the interdiction of drugs, guns, and other contraband at the border. D, there needs to be a more effective strategy to attract Caymanians and then to provide opportunities overseas for their training to allow rapid and effective promotion of Caymanians to the top ranks of the police service. E, upgrade, use, and deployment of electronic methods of crime interdiction, example, cameras, electronic ticketing. Now, just to expand on some of them, for instance, B. But before I do that, let me say, I see where the Premier has said the police will be given all the resources they needed, but he made that announcement in Stratton. No. If such is the case, let us look nicely at, that's A, he said they're going to be given, at B, where we say there needs to be put in place an adequate methodologies and resources to monitor the effectiveness of the police force. Now, if that's the case, I am calling on the Premier this morning to call back those 40 police officers who are off on required leave. Because there are
Did you say 40 police?
There are some 40 police officers who have up to 6 months on vacation leave because they have so much time off in lieu. It was easier for this country to negotiate a 50 cents on the dollar with those police officers. There are at least 40 police officers that were put off
that is shocking.
Recently so they could make up their time. And I'm not asking anyone. I'm telling them. Okay? Now, if that's the case that we're going to provide the resources, bring these police back on and negotiate with them, pay 50 to 75 cents on the dollar. The other thing is we need to ensure that when police have to work late because of crimes that happen just before they get off watch and what have you, I don't know the methodologies and that kind of stuff. One, that it is approved. Two, that these people are paid.
Of course.
They're paid because this is the situation we find ourselves in. When you give people, when you accumulate all this time, just when we need the police officers, they're gone. They're all they are required to go off so they can't claim monies and that kind of stuff.
But Mr. McLean, if I could just interrupt you there. If we're going to provide resources for them and tools and all the rest of it, well, one of the resources would be money. I mean, should we not spend the money that is necessary to compensate those officers when we spend money on so many other areas that is not aligned to or that is not like something as important as our security and policing?
Absolutely, but I should hasten to also say to the Premier that a couple of things. One, I should say that he has said this subsequent to these officers being put off on leave. Now that he has made that commitment, someone needs to be held accountable. That's number one. You cannot be given the police all this money because why I said that, as in 2010 or 11 thereabouts, we were told, Mr. Miller and I, that it took 27 officers in the eastern end of the island to be able to have a 24-hour thing, 24-hour monitoring by police. The money was provided. To this day, we have not received it. Okay? Now, the other thing is, Gilbert, is that if we are going to provide all this for the police force, someone at the top must answer.
Yes, and for the deployment wouldn't. Gentlemen, I mean, in any organization, one of the first things or it used to be that way in the service, when I was in the ministry as permanent secretary, all the departments and the ministry, we set the times when persons would go on leave. So isn't it better over a period of time for your force to be, for leave time to be set, you know how many people you have, and for leave times to be set, rather than, in effect, let go 40 persons one time? Isn't it better to let 5 go or 6 go on leave and so on?
You see,
it
over
seems to
time,
be some question as to
Gilbert,
the management.
It's one or two things. Shortage of police officers or mismanagement of the staff that you have. One of the two things.
There's no shortage of police officers. It could not be shortage of police officers.
Wow.
I live in a town in Canada called Kamloops. 50,000 people, 6,000 people, almost like Cayman, the whole population of Grand Cayman. It's a pulp and paper making town where they make pulp and paper maker meals, and people get drunk on Saturday nights and Friday nights, and they had something like 65 police RCMP officers running the town, 50,000 people. What is the problem here? The problem is that we do not have people who understands the modern policing. Let me explain what I mean. You cannot have a police force where people drive around in cars and they're not out in the streets. They have to be policing, old-time policing on the beat, they call it. Walking on the beat. Let me tell you how the policing that I grew up with. Every 2 or 3 hours, Earl Wood or one of those policemen would leave Elgin Avenue police station, would walk down Elgin Avenue, would walk up Shaden Road, that was his beat, would walk up to where the old Florence Block factory is, would walk back down Mary Street, would walk down through Rock Hole, would walk down through North Church Street, and would walk down to Harbor Street and walk right up to Elgin Avenue again.
And if they didn't want to walk, now they got bicycles at least, you know.
And in Bordentown and stuff, they were on horseback.
Well, that's what the commissioner is saying now, that he's going to get more people out. But you cannot.
But wait a minute, Mr. McLean.
By getting more police in, recruiting more.
More. And so every time I didn't come back from school, my mother would say, "Listen, you're not here at 3 o'clock. When Earl would come through here, I'm going to tell him that you're not home from school." I didn't want Earl Wood to stop me to ask me why I'm not from school. The policeman knows everyone in the neighborhood. You have to have police who know psychology, who understand urbanization, the results of urbanization. You have to have them trained in how to handle people. For instance, if a policeman was in Northward, on the beat in Northward, and I leave my home in Northward, and he sees some movement in my house in Northward, people moving stuff from my place, he would know, well, McPhail is not home today. McPhail is supposed to be working. And right away he would say something is out of order. But if he's just driving around in a car with air conditioning and he doesn't stop and doesn't even know how many people live in my house and whether I am away or not away, and they don't care for you, and like the lady said when she called, they come in and speak to you, who are you? Well, you're not going to have any police. And the thing is, you have to police people your own, because who better to tell you what's happening in your neighborhood but your own people? You can't have mercenaries from other countries coming into your country, and so who does not understand your culture, and some people are not going to tell them anything or cooperate with them, and there's a clash of cultures. Why people don't understand this? It's not working. It will never work. If they give them $1 million a year, it will never work.
Because they don't understand the different cultural.
Yeah, it's quite a bombshell, Mr. McLean, that you dropped. So let's just let it soak in, and your comments to Mr. McPhail for our listeners and those who might want to share with us. We do have 2 callers. I have been got a signal, so let's hear what is on the minds of those callers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, well, arguing back to the situation again, where you all see what the symptoms are.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the problem really is colonialism, which is a system.
But we don't want to come out of the clutches of it, Frank.
Yeah, well, it creates the duality, the conflict in terms of authority. Who really has the authority? Those that consider themselves to be natives, indigenous, or those persons who control them and decide for them ultimately, because ultimately it's the force in the society, not the ideas in the society, that dictates the direction of the society. This has been historical. This is something that is unavoidable. As long as the power of controlling the violence remains in the hands of the colonizers, those people that are colonized have to go along with the authority, which is based upon force and not based upon parliament. You know, when we talk about parliamentary democracy in England, we forget the fact that the power has still remained in the hands of the monarchy. It was never transferred to the parliament. The parliament was just a substitute, was just a voice, the conflicting two voices from two sides. But in the middle was the crown that ultimately had the power to make decisions when the decisions made by the people were not acceptable to that. So we have a similar situation today where people prefer to rule this country not by consensus, because to have the consensus we must develop the intelligence, what you all are talking about, so that people have an understanding and can make decisions, that the poll can make decisions on a day-to-day basis about what's best for them. But what's best for them is being decided at all times by the forces that are associated with the wealth which controls the country, which is the external forces. We know, because we talk always about preferring inward investment, preferring people to come in with the capital rather than raising the capital by elevating our people in our country, by developing our human capital. So it is important now that we have come to this particular point where we realize that there is this dichotomy, that there is this conflict between what they want and what we believe that we should have. How will this be resolved? Through elections every 4 years, or through us trying to elevate the consciousness of the people in the way in which you all are doing today? And I just hope that you're not cut off on this radio program at some particular time where these types of discussions cannot be aired, because although some people might see the discussions as going above their head, not really dealing with what they need now, which is bread and promotion, it is necessary for us to create that kind of framework for us to be able to think progressively and logically about what we're going to do to make our society one that benefits the people who feel that they have the legitimate right to be protected by the Constitution, and not that we just have a Constitution that is there to protect every term Tom, Dick, and Harry. We have to interpret, like Steve says, our Constitution in such a way to give us more self-determination. And this is really what is at stake here. And you guys in the opposition can make those appeals to the people to let them see that they have been complaining basically for the last 20 years. And nobody is coming forward with the solution, simply because those people who are empowered are not empowering the people that empower them.
Dr. Frank, I'm going to ask you if you can sum up for us. We have another caller. I'm sure that no doubt both of the persons here would agree with what he has said, and he has his way of summarizing these points. Is there another caller? Is the other caller still with us? Let's go to the next caller. Good morning, caller. Please go ahead. Hello?
Morning.
Good
Hello?
morning. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes. We're hearing you.
Just like to say one more thing quick. I know the time is running out. We really need a Caymanian commissioner of police. Really. You know, it's been too long now, you know. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
I know the time is running out. You know,
Okay.
so
Well, thank you, caller, for that opinion. And we need to go now and take a quick break. It'll be the last break, and then when we come back, the floor is open to our two guests, Mr. McLean and Mr. McField. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to For the Record, where we have with us in the studio MLA for East End, Mr. Arden McLean, and co-host of the show, Dr. Steve McField. So many things have been discussed this morning, and they're all of such importance. I think you had a point you were making after Mr. McField spoke, Mr. McLean. Please go ahead and complete your thoughts there now, because we will finish it. We won't take any more calls at this time, because if we do, you won't get the opportunity to summarize.
Yeah, we were talking. Mr. McField was talking about neighborhood policing, that the police knows everybody and knows even when you're going on vacation. They're like milkmen, really. The old days when it used to be delivered, they talk to the people in their yards, and they know more secrets about neighborhoods than anyone else. And I think we need to get back to that. Where before, everybody in Cayman knew every police officer. And I'm talking about many years ago that you and I remember, and Mr. McField. But there are many young people in this country, which makes up the majority of this population now, that does not know about it. They know nothing about it. It's unfortunate that this country has lost the discipline and courtesy that it had before. And we have lost it so much so that we are now at the stage of putting mechanisms in place to reintroduce it. And let me explain what I'm saying by that. Let's look at the roads. Look at what they're doing right there by Jose gas station. To ensure that cars stay between the white line, never cross the yellow line, they are putting those dividers there. Hitherto that was foreign to us, because we have lost discipline in this country. The courtesy in this country has been gone out of the window. Everybody comes with their brand of justice, and it does not align with that we know, that we were brought up in. The police department, the same thing. Road was number one. Number two is the police department. You speak with their accent, they don't do you anything. Or that's what is claimed. They drive around in cars, and the crime continues to increase. Now, the next step we need to do, and I brought a motion on this, about school zones, to make sure people's license is removed from them. What we did a few years ago was put cameras in the place of neighborhood policing. And the cameras are the worst in the world. We need to upgrade them. We need to come back with the police law, or whichever one it is, and change it in order that we do ticketing electronic, in electronic manner, that we get cameras that do license plate reader ID, I think it's called, or something like that, but everybody knows what I mean. Recognition, I think it's called. And send a ticket in the mail. And anyone, since we are going to have to go to this distance, anyone found driving through a school zone 5 miles or more above the speed limit when the lights are flashing, your license is taken away for 1 year, immediately. There's no maybe or perhaps, because we have no respect for young children in this country. We have no respect for people's lives. Many people come from countries where a life means nothing. It dies today and it's buried tomorrow. That's not where we were. And if we do not maintain some degree of discipline and courtesy and respect for each other, the country is going to be lost. It's going to fall through the cracks. And if we're going, and I'm saying to the Premier, I'm here, if we're going to go that way, you bring the bill to spend and change those cameras, and you bring the amendment so that we can do ticketing by license plate recognition, and I'm there with you. I want you to think about what happened in England the other day, them terrorists stopping up those people. Within 8 minutes, they were captured by the police or shot. Why? Cameras. That's what caused that. You think police can respond that quickly? They're not there. But their eyes in the sky allowed them to be there. Yes. Within 8 minutes, they had captured those people. Here, we got people stealing boats, and the cameras don't see the boats that go past it down the road. We need to spend the money. Unfortunately, that's the case, because I got my boat parked across the street from me on a French lot, and they go in there and take out the washdown hose and anchor. God forbid. God forbid. But this is what is happening. Where this behavior has come from, I understand. I understand we need to find work for our people. That is part and parcel of it. But there is also a need for the Premier to demand, when I brought that motion of no confidence in the management of the police force, the Premier came to me and we amended it. I quite willingly amended it, with the understanding that the governor was going to get a review of the police force as soon as a new police officer was arrived.
But
he's been here now nearly a year and we still haven't seen it. What am I, some idiot? And I must sit down and say nothing?
Well,
no, I'm not going to do that. If what are the people of this country? Some stoops that their representative brings it, you ask them to change it, and they willingly do it, and then you treat them like they're some bastard children and don't do anything about it? No, it's time now. It's time for her to give us this now.
Well, certainly, Mr. McLean, you have the right as a member of the Legislative Assembly and as one of the opposition members who is shadowing the actions of government, or observing the inactions. Mr. McField, we're just about at the end of the show, which has been quite detailed and intense, and you now have the opportunity for any closing remarks.
Well, following on from the discussions we had this morning and the many engaging calls that we took this morning, I just jot down a few notes here. So I would like to say this.
Now we're in trouble.
We desperately need our MLAs to work the Constitution to our advantage, not political grandstanding. We desire economic balance, not public deprivation. And we should not care what other people believe about us, as long as we firmly believe in our own selves.
Well said, and between both of you, gentlemen, I think much has been said today, and I hope that the public have enjoyed the show, which I believe it has certainly been very informative. We thank our callers that have called in and shared their opinion. And, of course, there's so much more that could be said, but there is Friday, so hopefully we can continue this discussion in these areas of importance, particularly seeing that, on the 21st, I think the government goes to the legislature to make the strategic policy statement, and then we will know just how much they have taken heed of what, Mr. McLean, you and your colleagues have put forward, and what they're hearing on shows like this to make certain changes perhaps, or tweaking certain things that we need to hope for that will work for the benefit of those of us who can truly claim these Cayman Islands as home.
Yeah, Gilbert, and one of the things Dr. Macfield wanted to talk about the speaker's position and stuff, and I may not be back here Friday, but I think one of the things that I need to talk about on that particular issue about what the role of the speaker is the only way a representative gets their job done is the absolute reliance upon the impartiality of the speaker.
Yes, I think that
not
needs
this
to be
speaker,
discussed.
any speaker.
Well,
absolute reliance upon it. And if there are any reasons why that goes out of the window, because the speaker's job primarily is to manage the parliamentary process, and secondly is to ensure that every representative is afforded to represent their people by virtue of making representation on the floor of that legislative assembly. The government will always have its way because that is the head of the state. But the opposition must never be truncated in its say.
Quite so, Mr. McLean. And once again, we thank our callers, we thank our listeners, and tune in on Friday morning at 7:30 when we will again have For the Record. I have been your host, Gilbert McLean, filling in for Mr. Oric Connor, who is on leave. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.